The man that our security department just called a dirty vagrant and threatened to have arrested is the same person who has prevented at least 6 major system failures in the past 3 years. That would have cost us hundreds of millions of dollars in downtime and destroyed client relationships. Robert Chen's voice was ice-cold as it boomed through the marble lobby of Cascade Technologies via speakerphone, reaching every corner where dozens of employees stood frozen in shock. The CEO's words hit the pristine corporate environment like a nuclear bomb, obliterating the career of Marcus Chen, the ambitious young security guard who had just made the most expensive mistake of his professional life. Furthermore, Chen continued with barely contained fury. The man you just humiliated in front of half our staff owns more stock in tech companies than most of our vice presidents, and has the direct personal phone numbers of every major CEO in Silicon Valley. When Google had their massive outage in 2019, they flew him to Mountain View at midnight, because he was the only person on the West Coast who could solve what their entire engineering team couldn't figure out. But how did it come to this? How did a routine Tuesday morning in Seattle turn into the most humiliating public destruction of a security guard's career? Before I tell you how this incredible story unfolded, I want to know, have you ever been judged unfairly because of how you looked? Drop your city in the comments and tell me if something like this has happened to you or someone you know. Trust me, you're going to want to hear every detail of what happened next. 3 hours earlier, Samuel Washington, known to everyone simply as Uncle Sam, had been standing outside one of Seattle's most prestigious technology towers, in the kind of Pacific Northwest rain that soaks through your jacket in seconds and makes your work boots squeak with every step. At 62 years old, Uncle Sam had seen this scenario play out before. Critical infrastructure problems, developing overnight emergency alerts flooding his phone, and the urgent need to get inside a building to prevent millions of dollars in system failures. Uncle Sam wasn't just any facilities manager. For over 30 years, he had been the invisible backbone of America's tech revolution. The man who kept the servers running while brilliant engineers took all the credit. His weathered hands had built the systems that powered everything from Apple's cloud services to Amazon's fulfillment centers. Yet most people looked right through him. That Tuesday morning was different. The environmental monitoring systems at Cascade Technologies had been sending him urgent alerts all night. Server rooms were running dangerously hot, and if those systems crashed during peak business hours, it would cascade across the entire Pacific Northwest digital infrastructure. Uncle Sam's keycard had been malfunctioning for weeks, but building management kept postponing the replacement. Budget constraints, they claimed, despite the company posting record profits of $2.3 billion. The lobby of Cascade Technologies was designed to intimidate. 40-foot ceilings, massive digital walls displaying stock prices, and Italian marble floors polished to mirror perfection. Behind the imposing security desk sat Marcus Chen, 28 years old and burning with ambition that had driven him from mall security to this position in 3 years. Marcus wore his authority like expensive cologne, obvious to everyone around him. His uniform was pressed to perfection, his badge gleamed under LED lights, and his posture radiated the confidence of a young man who finally had power over others and intended to use it. The wet, disheveled man approaching his desk was everything Marcus had been trained to keep out. This was exactly the kind of person who disrupted corporate aesthetics. "Excuse me," Uncle Sam said politely, setting his sophisticated toolbox down on the pristine marble. "My keycard malfunctioned, and I need to get to the 42nd floor. There's a critical server issue requiring immediate attention. Marcus barely looked up from his security footage review. Sir, he said with condescending authority, you can't just walk in here looking like you've been sleeping in an alley. This is a professional environment. The words hit Uncle Sam like physical blows. In 3 decades of tech work, he developed thick skin. But something about Marcus's tone touched a deeper nerve. I understand your concern, Uncle Sam replied with professional composure. I'm Samuel Washington, Senior Facilities Manager. I've been working on 42 for 3 months. Marcus stood up, using his 6-foot frame to tower over Uncle Sam. Look, old man, I know every legitimate employee in this building. Maintenance workers don't carry expensive equipment and claim to work on executive floors. Where real professionals handle million-dollar systems. The morning rush was beginning. Well-dressed employees streamed through the lobby, most absorbed in phones. But a few noticed the confrontation developing. Jennifer Martinez, a marketing director with an MBA from Stanford, paused to observe. Something about the older man's dignity reminded her of her grandfather. David Kim, a mid-PhD software architect, lingered near the coffee station, his analytical mind drawn to the sophisticated equipment in Uncle Sam's toolbox. I can provide employee identification, Uncle Sam offered, reaching slowly into his jacket with careful movements of someone who understood security protocols. Don't reach for anything, Marcus commanded loudly. You're making our people uncomfortable. You're dripping water everywhere. You smell like the streets. And you're disrupting our workplace with whatever con game you're running. The word smell cut through Uncle Sam like a blade. He took immense pride in his hygiene and professionalism. He'd showered that morning, worn a clean uniform. Only the Seattle rain had changed that. Young man, Uncle Sam said, steadily despite growing humiliation, I need to get upstairs. Server Room C is approaching dangerous temperature levels, and if those systems fail during peak hours, we could see cascading failures across the entire Pacific Northwest digital infrastructure. Now, before Uncle Sam makes this life-changing phone call, I have to ask, are you watching from a big city like Seattle or a small town? Because what's about to happen could happen anywhere. To anyone. Hit that like button if you think Marcus is about to learn the hardest lesson of his life. Marcus laughed mockingly. Pacific Northwest digital infrastructure? Listen to this guy. He thinks he understands technology systems managed by certified engineers with advanced degrees from top universities. These are professionals handling billion-dollar systems. Not someone who looks like he can't use a smartphone. But Jennifer Martinez was actively concerned, quietly searching the company directory. What she found made her stomach drop with shock and dread. Samuel Washington was listed as Senior Infrastructure Manager, with security clearance exceeding most executives and direct C-suite reporting during emergencies. David Kim studied Uncle Sam's technical vocabulary, flawless understanding of server cooling systems, calm demeanor suggesting decades of emergency experience. The backup generators will engage when primary cooling fails, Uncle Sam continued. But they're not designed for full thermal load during this heat wave. Secondary cooling relies on pumps controlled by relay switches on circuit board J47, showing intermittent failure patterns that could cascade into total system failure. Circuit board J47 wasn't something anyone could fabricate. That was deep. Internal system knowledge only someone with genuine infrastructure access would possess. How do you know about circuit board J47? Jennifer asked, stepping forward with new respect and growing concern about what was unfolding. Because I designed the redundancy protocols for this building's environmental systems. When we upgraded from K-Series infrastructure 18 months ago, Uncle Sam's phone buzzed with another alert. Server room C is now 82 degrees and climbing. Normal operating temperature is 74 degrees. We have maybe 12 minutes before automatic emergency shutdown protocols engage. Marcus hesitated, Uncle Sam's technical precision making him uncertain. Uncle Sam reached into his jacket, movements visible to all. I'm going to show you something, but I want to move carefully so there's no misunderstanding. He pulled out a smartphone configured with applications most employees had never seen. Complex arrays of real-time monitoring systems filled the screen. This phone has direct access to every critical system in this building. Environmental controls, power management, network infrastructure, security protocols. It also has the direct personal number of Robert Chen, your CEO. Not his assistant's line, but his personal cell phone for infrastructure emergencies. Marcus's face went pale. Robert Chen was legendary for privacy protection and intolerance for interruptions. The idea seemed impossible. You're bluffing, Marcus said with diminished confidence. Even vice presidents need multiple assistants to get 5 minutes of his time. His number is 206555047. He programmed it when I solved a critical power failure 3 years ago that nearly took down West Coast operations. He answers on the second ring, and the first thing he'll ask is whether I've activated T7 emergency cooling protocol for today's weather. Jennifer frantically cross-referenced company directories. Samuel Washington's access levels exceeded her own boss, most senior directors, people making 10 times his apparent salary. Mr. Washington, Jennifer said with respect and panic, I've confirmed your employee status. You have administrative-level access to building operations. Before Marcus could respond, Uncle Sam's phone began ringing. The professional ringtone was clearly audible in the growing lobby silence. Pause the video right here and tell me in the comments. What would you do if you were Marcus? Apologize? Double down? Run away? Because what the CEO says next will shock everyone in that lobby. If you're enjoying this workplace justice story, subscribe because Uncle Sam has 30 years of stories. Sam here, he answered with calm authority earned through thousands of similar emergencies over 3 decades of critical infrastructure work. The voice was loud enough for everyone nearby to hear clearly. Sam, thank God you're available. Monitoring systems show critical temperature spikes across multiple server rooms. Please tell me you're already in the building working on this situation. The voice was unmistakably Robert Chen's. Jennifer recognized it from company meetings. But hearing the CEO speak to Uncle Sam with obvious respect and urgent dependency shattered everyone's understanding of corporate hierarchy. I'm currently in the lobby, Chen. I'm experiencing access difficulties due to keycard malfunction. And there's confusion among security personnel about my credentials. The brief silence felt eternal. When Robert Chen's voice returned, it carried controlled fury that made everyone understand they were witnessing something unprecedented. What kind of confusion? Chen's voice was ice cold now. Sam, you have the highest security clearance in this building. Every security team member should know your role. The keycard failure is a known magnetic strip issue building services has been tracking. The primary problem is security personnel believing I'm a vagrant attempting unauthorized access. The silence stretched forever. When Chen's voice returned, It was so controlled it was more terrifying than shouting. "Put me on speaker." Uncle Sam touched the speaker button. The CEO's voice filled the marble lobby with perfect clarity. Employees on mezzanine levels leaned over railings. "This is Robert Chen, Chief Executive Officer of Cascade Technologies. I'm speaking to everyone who can hear my voice to prevent further confusion or damage." Marcus was visibly trembling. His professional identity was about to be obliterated in front of dozens of colleagues, and nothing could stop it. "The man in your lobby is Samuel Washington, possibly the most critical employee for keeping our operations running and preventing catastrophic system failures costing hundreds of millions. Sam holds more infrastructure certifications than our entire engineering team combined. He's designed critical systems for Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Facebook, and dozens of others. When Google experienced their massive 2019 global outage, costing $15 million in lost revenue, they flew Sam to Mountain View at midnight in a private jet. Marcus was openly shaking. Understanding his career wasn't just over, but being destroyed in the most public, humiliating way possible. When Apple's Austin data center experienced cooling failures stumping MIT and Stanford engineers, they called Sam at 3 a.m. with essentially a blank check. When Amazon's fulfillment network collapsed during Black Friday weekend, Sam worked 36 hours straight, saving them $100 million in lost sales. Uncle Sam stood quietly throughout this recitation, showing mixture of vindication and sadness. This wasn't how he wanted recognition. He just wanted to work quietly. But more importantly, Chen continued with devastating precision. Sam chose to work here not because he needs this job financially. He owns more stock than most senior VPs. The wealth revelation hit like a second shock wave. Here was someone who could retire comfortably, but chose hands-on technical work because it gave life meaning. "I need to know, are you Team Uncle Sam or think Marcus deserved a second chance? Comment your thoughts and tell me what city you're watching from." These workplace situations happen everywhere, and I want to know where my viewers are dealing with this kind of corporate culture. Marcus had progressed from pale to green. Security colleagues stared with expressions ranging from pity to barely concealed satisfaction at their supervisor's downfall. Furthermore, Chen's voice reached controlled fury levels, making everyone uncomfortable. Sam has direct personal numbers of every major Silicon Valley tech CEO. Not because he's a corporate climber, but because when Tesla, Netflix, or Salesforce face infrastructure emergencies costing hundreds of millions, they call Sam. So I want to know exactly who decided Samuel Washington looked too much like a vagrant to enter our building. Because that person will learn an expensive lesson about treating every human being with basic respect and dignity regardless of appearance or perceived social status. Marcus raised his hand like a caught student. "That would be me, sir. Marcus Chen, head of security." Marcus Chen, the CEO, repeated slowly, like an executioner's axe. "Any relation to me?" "No, sir. Just coincidental surname." "Good," Chen replied with Arctic coldness. Because I'd be embarrassed sharing a name with someone lacking basic judgment. To distinguish between legitimate security threats and our most valuable, respected employees. The public humiliation was complete, but Chen had one final blow. Marcus, while you played power games making appearance-based assumptions, this man was trying to prevent an ongoing system failure that will cost us $2 million in 25 minutes if not addressed immediately. Uncle Sam checked his phone. Server room C had reached 85 degrees. Automatic emergency shutdowns would begin within minutes. Chen, I appreciate the clarification, but we need to address the cooling crisis before it cascades into something much larger and more expensive. Of course, Sam. I'm sending my personal elevator access code now. Get to 42 immediately. I'll have building engineering teams standing by to assist. And Marcus, Chen's voice turned Arctic one final time. Report to human resources immediately after Sam resolves our emergency. We need serious conversation about whether someone with your demonstrated lack of judgment and basic human decency belongs in any security role here. The call ended, leaving complete silence except for HVAC hums and distant elevator chimes. Uncle Sam picked up his toolbox with maintained dignity. Ms. Martinez, he said to Jennifer, thank you for verifying my employee's status instead of accepting assumptions. That critical thinking is what companies need. Jennifer felt tears forming, realizing how close they'd come to complicity in devastating injustice. Uncle Sam turned to Marcus, still frozen by his desk. Marcus, I want you to know I take no pleasure in what occurred. You're not fundamentally bad, weren't trying to be malicious. You thought you were doing your job. Marcus looked up with eyes filling with tears of humiliation and dawning realization of how badly he'd misjudged everything. But this is a lesson everyone in corporate America needs to learn. You cannot judge someone's worth, capabilities, right to dignity, or organizational value based on appearance, dress, perceived wealth, or whether they fit your preconceived notions about success and professionalism. The elevator arrived with its soft chime, but Uncle Sam held doors open for an impromptu lesson in human dignity for everyone present. 30 years ago, I worked as night janitor at a small Austin tech company, making minimum wage, wearing worn uniforms, invisible to most people. The security guard was your age, Marcus. William Thompson had every reason to treat me exactly like you just did. I was nobody important, powerless, statusless. But William did something different. Every night he greeted me by name, asked about family and goals, shared coffee when cold, helped me study for certifications. That company was Dell Computer Corporation, run from a converted warehouse by college dropout Michael Dell. William's simple human decency changed my life trajectory. Jennifer was crying openly. Understanding this wasn't just workplace dynamics, but fundamental human interaction choices. That change lives profoundly and permanently. William encouraged me to apply for technical positions, vouched for my character when managers were skeptical about promoting janitors to technical roles. That's the difference between using power to build people up versus tearing them down. William could have treated me like you just did. But William made a different choice, and that choice changed his life too. When I became successful, gained real influence, William was my first hire. William worked for me 15 years before retirement. I paid for his children's college educations, helped him buy his house, ensured best medical care during cancer. Not because I owed him, but because his kindness when I was nobody special showed me who he really was as a human being. The point I'm making, Uncle Sam said with infinite gentleness, is that real success isn't measured by how you treat people above you in hierarchies. It's measured by how you treat people you think are beneath you. People who can't do anything for you. People you believe don't matter. Because you never know who that person might become. And more importantly, how you treat them reveals everything about your true character. Every person walking through this lobby, every janitor, delivery person, contractor, intern, regardless of title, salary, or perceived status, deserves basic dignity. Marcus, I hope you remember this not as career destruction day, but as the day you learn something crucial about character and compassion. How you respond to this lesson will determine what kind of person you become and what kind of life you build going forward. The elevator doors closed, carrying Uncle Sam toward the 42nd floor, where millions in infrastructure hung in balance, leaving profound impact below. Marcus walked toward human resources, understanding his Cascade Technologies' time was over, but thinking less about failure, more about Uncle Sam's grace and wisdom. Over following weeks, Cascade Technologies implemented sweeping changes to security protocols, employee training programs, and corporate culture initiatives. The Uncle Sam and Marcus story became industry case study exemplifying both workplace dignity, problems and solutions throughout corporate America. Marcus wasn't fired. He was enrolled in intensive unconscious bias, professional development, and community service programs over 6 months. He worked with homeless shelters and job training programs, learning firsthand about complex circumstances leading to unprofessional appearances. While possessing valuable skills, Uncle Sam continued his work, quietly preventing crises and solving impossible problems, while remaining largely invisible to corporate hierarchy. But now young employees encountering him in hallways knew they were meeting someone whose technical expertise was legendary and character was gold standard. 6 months later, Marcus had completed rehabilitation and became one of the most effective workplace dignity advocates in company history. He learned to see past appearances, value substance over style, understand that true security came from inclusive environments, not exclusion. Uncle Sam occasionally received Marcus progress updates, taking quiet satisfaction knowing crisis had transformed into growth and redemption opportunity. This was exactly the outcome he'd hoped for when choosing to respond to humiliation with grace, rather than vengeance or bitterness. Years later, business schools teaching corporate culture and workplace dignity case studies referenced the Uncle Sam incident at Cascade Technologies. It became a powerful example of how appearance-based assumptions could lead to catastrophic business failures, and responding to conflict with wisdom transforms organizational cultures. So what do you think happened to Marcus after this? Did he truly learn his lesson or just get bitter? I'll tell you in the next Uncle Sam story. But first, smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because Uncle Sam's next story involves a CEO's son who thought he could fire his own father. You won't believe what happened next. The lesson remained simple but profound. Every person deserves respect and dignity, regardless of appearance, circumstances, or perceived hierarchy position. Because you never know who that person might be, and more importantly, how you treat them reveals everything about who you truly are.